Welcome everybody to Diversity Chats, where we bridge the gaps in diversity before it destroys another life. I have a guest with me. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Estee. I go by E. I'm a spoken word artist. Individual that, I love people and I love these moments like this to just talk. So, hi, everyone.
Hey. Well, welcome. So glad that you're joining today. Where are you from and where do you currently reside?
So I'm born and raised in California. I'm a California girl. Grew up in the IE, currently residing in the Lakewood, Los Angeles area. My family is from Nigeria, so I had a little bit of a different experience growing up.
Nice. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yes.
I didn't know you're Nigerian. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it both your mom and dad?
Yeah, my mom and dad are both from Nigeria, but it's a little different. Most Nigerians that you meet who are like first gen like me, their parents met in Nigeria. My parents actually met in America. Like it's totally different story, but it's cool still.
Yeah. What's like one adjustment or one cultural, like very distinct cultural difference between like what your upbringing from Nigerian culture, if it was very defined, to like what you experienced at school with your friends and stuff?
Oh, let's see. I asked for an allowance once, and that was hilarious. Nigerian parents don't believe in allowance. Okay, like that's not a thing. My mom looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" Like, it was very funny, but yeah, that's one. And then like spending the night at people's houses. That's the slumber parties are like a no-go. So when my parents actually allowed me to do it once, like I was shocked. And I hurried up and like packed all my things before she realized. She said yes, and I was like, "All right, let's go. Let's get out of here before she changes her mind." Like, yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, I think that was like the funniest thing. My mom would always say, "We American children are spoiled," and she would tell us how much, like all the different chores and things that she would have to do. And she looked at me like, "An allowance? What are you talking about?"
I feel like I would tell my children they're spoiled for being in America too, and I'm not even like from it. Like I don't have a close generational difference to another country, but I know we're super blessed here. That's for sure. And some of me and my friends, we joke a lot. We complain about stuff. It's a lot of first world problems that we be complaining about because it's like compared to other stuff that's going on. Like we have clean water, just.
Right, that part. Unless you live in Flint, Michigan, then that's
oh my gosh.
Story. That's
I don't even understand that. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand. Do you understand? Somebody help me understand.
I wish I could understand it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, that's really sad. And it's very, I don't even know. All right. So let's keep them in prayer though, for real. That's messed up. What ethnic group do you identify as?
So I'm a Nigerian American individual. So that's what I identify as. And society sees, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't hide that one.
Yeah. Do you ever mess with people and like put on like a Nigerian accent or something with like you don't even know me actually?
I've done it in the past. Me and my siblings would do it, sometimes making jokes or whatever, but I can have an accent when I want to, and sometimes I can turn it off. But it's just a thing.
That's fun. I love it. And what's your age, if you're willing to share?
I'm willing to share. I am 33. I will be 34 in September, which is like a big deal because I am doing a book release like around my birthday. It's like a whole rebirthing, if you will, of things that I plan to do and kind of like let fall off in retrospect. Thinking about it, it's like it's my testimony basically in poetic form. So it's a poetry collection. It's called These Dry Bones. And it is, it's my journey in poetic form. I found the poems from my angry teenage years as a adolescent young writer. And it shows like my growth and my transition and like the theme and the story of my writing changing. And it's based on the 37th chapter of Ezekiel in the Bible, the Valley of the Dry Bones passage. So it kind of follows that whole being in a dry place and having to prophesy to those dry bones. And like for me, what those dry bones represent are like those different dreams and visions and ideas that we have that we just kind of like let die because of obligations or society or just all these different reasons that we give ourselves to not pursue those things. And it's time. It's like a rebirthing of this whole process. So that's happening around my birthday.
That's beautiful. I love it. It sounds amazing. I don't know about you, but hopefully your writings from that time period, you said you're like adolescent teenage years, hopefully yours were more saved than mine, because I don't think I would want to share the way I was. Did you have to edit it?
I tried to leave most of it as unedited as possible because I wanted to show like that whole transition and that journey because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, and you can't lie about your testimony. Like you got to give your testimony in truth. So I just put the poems in there the way I wrote them.
That's awesome. Good for you. And Danielle's giving you some love. She said congratulations in the chat.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yes, you can pre-order the book with the link in my bio. So there's a link in my bio. You can pre-order it, and hopefully this Rona don't mess up, my plans. But I'll probably do like a very exclusive, like small, intimate poetry reading. So yeah, more details on that coming soon. I'm still trying to plan it out and make sure I can social distance and all of that. Lord help us.
Oh, in person. That's nice. That's going to be super intimate, but beautiful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can like live stream it if you want.
Yeah, I got to work out all those details.
Fun stuff. It's like, I love writing, but there's business associated with actually releasing a project. So
right,
that part is sticky for me personally, but I'm really glad that you started and finished something, and I hope you keep, doing that. That's awesome. And when you talk about, your book and the dry bones and everything made me think about my spoken word name goes by Unburied Talent. And it's about like unburying, your talents, to bury your talents is death. That's what I heard God say to me. And so unburying them and making sure that I utilize them for the glory of God, so I won't be called a wicked servant.
Yes.
I can definitely relate to what you're saying. So let's talk about, so I did want to give you a shout out for, thank you for including me on platform when you were doing a spoken word event. You allowed me to share some poems, and I'm honored to share this platform with you. somehow pay it back. Not that that's what you're asking, but I'm honored that I have something to share with you, because we definitely want to hear your voice and catalog it here on the diversity chat. I know you've been back with Six, so I guess I know you like maybe 4 or 5 years. And let me see here. I want to make sure I get everything because I wrote down a lot here. So, let me see. I know you do a lot. I love it.
Yeah.
You recently did like a Juneteenth shirt.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. Like, what's the significance of Juneteenth itself, and why is that important to you? Why did you do a whole design?
Yeah. So with the climate of everything that's been happening around the country and around the world, essentially, when Juneteenth was approaching, I felt moved to kind of design something that represented a moment where Black people in this country really had like a sense of true freedom. Like, even though the country was trying to oppress people of color in Texas, like the Emancipation Proclamation basically had been passed, and everyone in Texas didn't know. Like, they didn't know they were free. They were still like just being enslaved, basically. They were enslaved. They didn't know they were free. Juneteenth was the day where they actually received their freedom. And so if you see the shirt, I put on there, Texas couldn't hold them, because, there's like that card game, Texas Hold'em. And so I put Texas couldn't hold them on the shirt, because it's like, even though they knew the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, but they wanted to get one more harvest out of the slaves before they freed them. So it's like, yeah, you can't, you have to be innocent. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where the idea came from for the shirt. I just wanted to put something more positive out there. So that's where the line and everything came from. It's like, Texas couldn't hold them. Like, you tried to hold them, but you can't. You gotta let them go. Juneteenth, we free. There it is.
Break every chain.
Right? Exactly.
Do people still have the option to purchase them? If so, where can they get it?
Yeah, so they can purchase them on my website. So in my bio, e.expression.com, they can still go there and they can grab a Juneteenth shirt if they like. Yeah, and I also have these Dear Black Man shirts. So I wrote a poem in the midst of all the craziness going on, and I just wanted to put something positive out there for Black men. Like, there's not enough positivity out there. There's a lot of different negative images of them, and I just wanted to do something different. And I'm very glad that Miss Imani contacted me and asked me to do a poem on Father's Day. For Father's Day. So shout out to Second Baptist Church over in Santa Ana. They had me come do some spoken word for Father's Day, and that's where this poem came from. And it was just kind of like a thank you and an apology to Black men, because they go through so much in society. They go through just so much labeling and trying to fit in with what society wants, and then also trying to fit in with what the culture wants. And it's like, either you're too good or you're not good enough, and it's just like a whole lot. So that's kind of where the angle that piece was coming from. I just wanted to kind of bring healing. And then after the poem was done, I was like, you know what? Some of these lines, I really like them. And so put them on a shirt.
I like it. It's crazy. I did a poem called Black Man or something. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like, Black man, have you ever wondered why the boys and the men caught up in gangs had the same kind of skin? I don't know. It started like that. I don't remember how it goes because it was like so long ago, but It was
you need
more
to
like
dig it up and find it.
somewhere. And actually, what's interesting about that poem is that actually, after I wrote that when I lived in Ohio, when I moved to LA, my perspective changed because I noticed brown men had the same issues. That it was like a mindset thing. Like, so that's why I kind of haven't paid attention to the poem anymore. But yeah, anyway, that's cool that you did that. I love that you turned it into a product as well, so people have that as a kind of like a reminder. And you know, because you're into literature as a spoken word artist, you know, you're an educator. Both of us, we value education, and so we want to dig into that a little bit. Is the educational system, in your opinion, working for every child? If so, why? Or if not, why not?
Really?
Speak into the mic.
In my honest opinion, this education system is definitely doing a disservice to our children. Like, especially children in underserved neighborhoods, children in urban neighborhoods, if you will. And it's disheartening. Like, honestly, I feel like the No Child Left Behind Act was the worst thing that could have happened to education, because kids just get passed on and passed on. It's like they have not mastered these skills yet; they're being passed on. And while I was getting my credential, I found out that a child can only be held back, I believe, like maybe, I think it's, you can only be held back one time. And so I was taking a course for special education. So as I was taking that course, my professor had explained this to me. She was saying that basically a child can only be held back once. And so children should not be held back before third grade, because when that happens, and if that happens, they get held back before third grade. Everything from kindergarten up until third grade, they're kind of like gradually getting, and if it's a little bit delayed, that's fine. They might catch it by third grade. You really can't tell if a child is delayed until like fourth grade. That's when you know, like, all right, they're just not getting it. They need to be held back so they can get these skills. But if it happens anytime before that, you can't hold them back again. So now you just got to pass them on and pass them on. And they're just getting further and further behind.
Wow.
They're just getting further and further behind. That's how we end up with students in 8th grade who are at a 1st and 2nd grade level. And they struggle. And they just, it's hard. It's hard for them. And I'm like, how did you get this far? And it's like, oh, well, you know, social promotion. Like, it's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
It's the worst
what
thing that
age?
could happen.
Yeah, what age do you teach?
I work with middle school kids. So this upcoming school year, I'll be doing 7th grade. For the past, 7 years, I've been working with 6th through 8th grade students. So, yeah, predominantly middle school. I started off in high schools. But I found my home in middle school, which most people avoid middle school kids like the plague, because they're kind of crazy, but they grow on you after a while. I love them, you know.
What always weirds me out about when I see parents and during when the coronavirus kind of hit America and we had the shelter in place and everything, and people were hiding from their children. I saw a video where a guy printed the image of his couch and his kids called his name and behind it. I'm like, those are your children, bro. What are you doing? I'm trying to figure out. What I'm trying to figure out is how you're saying people avoid the middle school. We were all in middle school. Why are you acting like that so far? And then
I know.
Like relatable. I don't understand. Like, what are your thoughts about people hiding from their children and teachers not liking their students, or do you have thoughts about it?
Well, a lot of times I think there are too many people in education who teaching was their backup plan, and they don't really like kids. So therein lies another problem when you have people who don't want to be teachers, who are in the classroom, and then you have people who are scared of their students because they might be working with predominantly students of color, and they're afraid of them, but they have to teach them. And then you have, that's a whole nother issue. And then you have people who really, they just want the check. Like, they don't care. They'll sit in the classroom. They don't really care if the kids get it or not. They just want the check. And that is highly problematic as far as education goes, because if you can't connect with your kids, if they don't know that you care, they're not gonna learn from you. And that building relationships is like the biggest part of teaching. And another thing, as far as like parents go, a lot of parents that I've seen, they try to be their kid's friend instead of being their parent. And kids spend most of their time at school. Like, honestly, when you think about it, they spend the majority of their day at school, and then some of them do the after-school program, or they have sports, and they have all these different things that they're a part of. So they're really not spending that much time with their parents. So when this coronavirus hit, it was like a rude awakening for parents. It's like, oh, shoot, I'd have to be with you all day. Like, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have an escape. And so you shouldn't have to escape from your children. You should know them, get to know them, and especially at that middle school age, because that's the age where they are influenced the most. And if you haven't built those relationships with your children, that's when they turn. 7th, 8th grade, that's when they turn. Like 6th grade, they come to middle school, they're still kind of like babies. They're still in that, like, oh, I like my teacher type of situation. Once they hit 7th grade, that's where it's like they can go left or right. And if you haven't instilled some things in them, baby, you're in for a rude awakening. And hormones get to making them crazy.
I know, look, I told you about my writings when I was in that age. Like, I was off the hook, so I get it. A lot of compassion. A lot of times people tell me I should go be a teacher, but I don't want to be a teacher just for money. I don't find that to be the right motive. And I feel like a teacher is a psychologist, and I don't know if I'm ready for all of that. You basically become like mom. Depending on what age group you work with, you become mom. And especially like the male teachers that we have, shout out to them, because a lot of them become dad, especially for a lot of our students of color who are lacking their fathers. That male teacher, that fills that gap. So if you don't have a heart for children, if you don't have a heart for just making sure people's emotional well-being is okay, I don't suggest going into education. Not for the classroom anyway. There's plenty of other opportunities and jobs that you can take within education. But don't become a teacher in the classroom if you don't like children. Like, right. I just don't understand. I always think like nurses or like doctors and teachers, I need you guys to care about your job. I need you to care.
Right, like
if nobody else. And so I'm wondering, as far as, we looked at the we talked about the educational system and if it's working for every child. Do you think it could ever be possible to make it work for every child? Like, is that even feasible?
I believe that it can, but there's so much reform that needs to happen. Like there's so many studies that show large classroom sizes do not work. Yet and still, they have large classroom sizes. We already know that like 15-1 should be the ratio. That's common knowledge. It's out there. Yet when you look at districts like LAUSD, and the teachers have to go on strike because they got 40 kids in the classroom with no aides and different things like that. Like, we know what's there, but there's no, they don't make the budget worth anything for teachers. And then there's things like arts education. There's so many studies out there that show that arts education helps students succeed. Yet arts education is the first thing that gets cut. And I feel like as a society, they don't want educated people, because if you have educated people, then you can't control them. So it's like, it's very hard. I mean, when you think about it, it's just, why was it so scary that Black people knew how to read? Why do they say you want to hide something from Black people, put it in a book? They don't want people educated. If people are educated, then you cannot easily control them.
Yeah.
And they want people to be easily controlled.
Mm-hmm. Education is definitely power. I can't think of exactly how someone had, quoted it, but it's something about people being afraid of Black people, like you said, becoming educated or finding their own, or some kind of stance and independence and thriving and success. And people are afraid, not everybody, but there are people that are afraid of it. And it's because they think like Black people are going to do to them what, the bad white people, not all white people at the time, because there's abolitionists, but white people at the time that were, enslaving Black people. And, even when we were free, the people were lynching and all this, the white supremacist people. There's people who are afraid that we would retaliate. But I feel like there's a misunderstanding that that's not what we're here for. We just don't want to be in prison anymore. That's it.
Exactly. Like, those people on Black Wall Street were not bothering anybody. They were minding their business, living in their community, educating their children, building their business. They just didn't want to see people of color having economic freedom. That's all that it was. Like, nobody in Tulsa was bothering anybody. They were living their lives. If I'm wrong, somebody come tell me that I'm wrong. But as far as I know, they were just living their lives in their community, doing what they do amongst each other. Yeah. And people came in there and burned their city to the ground.
Yeah, that's definitely a story worth looking into, because it's terrifying, but it's real. It's a real American history story, and
that's not in the history curriculum.
I feel like I just found out about it, so no, it's definitely not there.
I mean, history curriculum. But that's the thing. The people who win the wars, the people who are in positions of power, are the ones who control the curriculum. So it's kind of crazy. Like, I remember a few years back, I saw in the textbooks, they were calling the transatlantic slave trade immigration, as if people volunteered to come work as indentured servants. And I'm like, that is not what the transatlantic slave trade was. And there was this whole lawsuit against Houghton Mifflin, or whatever that textbook company is. But it was like, how can you print this? Y'all printed this in hundreds and thousands of textbooks and sent this across the country. Like, this is okay. Like, nah, we not here for that. Tell the truth.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody caught that. Yeah, I'm glad someone caught that and corrected it, because that's unfortunate, and that's why we have to be intentional to, you know, like I know Shannon and them, they're doing is it cultivate, be intentional to yourself, not waiting for other people to tell you what to be informed about, but go inform yourself. It's not like we don't have access to like every piece of literature right now at this time in the world. So, and you don't really have an excuse at the moment, you know?
Right.
There's this phrase, like right before this chat, like I was just like scrolling on Facebook, and there was like a question someone posed. It said, what grade were you in when you had your first Black male teacher? Are you able to answer that?
I was in 10th grade. I was in 10th grade. I was at Ontario High School, 10th grade, Mr. Sample. He was my geometry teacher, and he was like my favorite teacher.
What was your favorite?
He made math fun for me.
Wow, that's a challenge.
Right, exactly. He made math fun for me. So yeah, that was my first experience with a male African American teacher. 10th grade. Wow. I went all throughout. Somebody said third grade. That's nice. There's not enough. I feel like there's not enough Black male teachers in the primary grades, like that kinder through 5th grade. I don't think there's enough of them. I feel like there needs to be more.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like, I want to respect your time. We've exceeded our 30 minutes. Do you have like an extra 5?
Yeah. No, we're good.
All right, cool. So, I wanted to, this is going to tie in, but like switch gears to like Hollywood.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, let's keep talking about representation and then we get there. Like, what is the value of representation in your opinion?
Representation is so important. And like for me, when I was younger, I took acting classes, and I remember going on one of my little auditions and interviews, and they asked me like, oh, why do you want to be a model? And I remember saying, I want to be a model so that little Black girls have someone to look up to, because there's not enough representation for us to look at. I remember giving that answer, and then I got older and I did some research and I found out about the doll test. I don't know if you've ever seen that video of like the doll test where they show a bunch of little Black girls and they give them a doll and they ask them which doll do they want. And they don't pick the little Black doll, they pick the little white doll because that's the one that they constantly see. That's the one that they feel is beautiful. They ask them which doll is pretty. They point at the white doll. They ask them which doll is ugly. They point at the Black doll. And then they ask which doll looks like you. And they point at the one that they just said was ugly. And stuff like that broke my heart to just see stuff like that. And not too long ago, I don't know if you remember that little girl, the video that went viral of the little girl that was getting her hair done. And she saw herself and she just started crying and was like, I'm ugly. And stuff like that just, it's devastating to me. And even maybe 2 years ago while I was working at the school that I was working at, you guys know me. I'm full of colorful hair and I love to express myself that way. And I had a student come up to me and tell me she loved me so much because I was just so cool and free-spirited, but she could never wear color in her hair because she's too dark. And I wanted to cry. And I grabbed her and told her, baby, don't ever say that about yourself. You are beautiful. Your chocolate skin is amazing. And you can put whatever color in your hair you want to. Like, be you. And this is why representation matters. Because they need to see that it's okay for them to be themselves.
That's good. Yeah, I love that example. I'm going to tell you right now, chocolate skin is like the most beautiful, like dark chocolate. And then when you can put neon with it, look, you can match your complexion with neon and it looks amazing. Like, That's like the best. I love it. I love it. The darker complexion is beautiful to me. So I really love that example, though, and I want to hug that little girl. Tell her she's beautiful, but I hope she felt that from you. I'm sure she did. So thank you for validating her. What does representation look like at the moment as far as Hollywood is concerned, or any media outlet right now?
I feel like they are trying to do a little bit better. But all in all, it's very lacking, you know, unless it's a stereotypical role. And I feel like that's where that whole idea of like the token Black person in a lot of these mainstream Hollywood movies comes into play, because it's like, oh, we're diverse. Look, we have all people in the cast, and it's like there's one Black guy or there's one Black cast member. It's like, oh yeah, you're very diverse, very diverse.
Stand here, just stand here, and just like press, like squeeze in the Black person into the shot.
Make sure you give him in the shot, and it's just so sad. But I feel like people are trying to do a little bit better. Like I see Netflix is now like bringing all the Black shows that we used to love to watch, and like they're all about to be streaming on Netflix, like Moesha and yeah, I just saw that. So what is the Instagram? I think it's like Strong Black Leads. Like they post all the different shows and things that are going to be streaming on Netflix. So I mean, yay, kudos to Netflix for like posting these things now or streaming them or whatever. But overall, there can be more. Like there's plenty of directors and people of color who are trying to make films that are not getting the green light, and I feel like something should be done about that. I don't have the answer, but I just know that more should happen.
That's a good answer. And I think I'll end with this question. Let me see. It is, how can we develop representation in Hollywood, and is it possible to integrate instead of segregate? Meaning, like, you know, like you say Moesha or something like that, like it's definitely geared towards certain demographic that leaves out other demographic. I don't have a problem with that, because you got to have everything. So you got to have something that speaks to specifically people's culture, and then other things that are more integrated, and it's not just like, we're going to put a Black person here, but it's going to be a white, you know, demographic film.
Right.
Is there a way to integrate instead of segregate in order to show representation? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I know we're talking about Hollywood, but I'll give this example.
Yeah.
I went to UCLA. UCLA is in the heart of Los Angeles, right? UCLA, as a school, is supposed to represent the demographics of Los Angeles, which means as many African Americans, as many Latinos, as many as there's different ethnic groups that live within the city of Los Angeles, they should be represented in the student population. That's not the case. So it's kind of like that same argument. So however the demographics are for the area that you're targeting, if you really want to be diverse, you should include all of the people that make up that area. At least if you have one from each category, or however you want to break it up, that's true diversity. Not just like having a majority and then throwing the speck in there and like, oh, we're diverse. Like, that don't work. Give true representation of what's there.
Yeah.
And I think that works.
That's a great example with UCLA. I have been on that. It's a beautiful campus. But yeah, I can see what you're saying about the student body. I'll do my closing, and then if you have anything else that you wanted to share that we didn't discuss, please do share at the end here. But we want to thank everybody for joining us, tuning in. Thank you so much, Estee. Bless you. We just want to encourage you to come back and join us at the next diversity track, where we bridge the gaps of diversity and destroy ignorance before it destroys another life. And Estee, did you have anything else to share?
Thanks for listening to me talk. My website is in my bio. I have art prints, which have different representations of the Black female and male. So I have my Dear Black Man shirts. Feel free to check those out. I have canvas prints, glossy prints of my art, different things like that. So go ahead and check me out. You can pre-order These Dry Bones right now. And the book release will be September 26th, right before my birthday. My birthday's on the 28th. So, yay. Happy birthday to me.
Yes. Happy early birthday to you.
Yes. So,
great.
Thank you guys so much for just supporting my sis here with these conversations. I love these conversations. They need to be had. That's the only way that things can change. People have to talk. Like I saw something where everyone was like, we need our own platform and we need to get off Facebook, we need to get off Instagram. And I'm like, okay, but if everyone leaves, then who's going to educate? Who's going to help bring awareness if everyone just shifts and leaves? Because there are some people who just truly don't know. Like they're unaware of different things. And if everyone's like, we're out, they're never going to know.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point. We'll leave that mic drop there. Thank you so much, Estee. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bless you, sis.
All right, bye.